Hey, here I've got the FighterStick Guilty Gear XX Custom by Sammy, later known as ASCII, and then absorbed into Sega, I guess, but also ASCII was absorbed into a different company. Anyways, this is a stick for the PS2. You can clearly see it has a weird button layout. Completely lacking L1 and R1, L1 and L2, sorry, but they're up here instead. These buttons are pressy, but they're not super duper responsive. I've got a input viewer up here. See me mashing the L1, and it's not getting every single input. These select and start buttons are a little weird too. If you press select, sometimes it just activates both start and select for some reason. Start's fine though. Select for some reason does both. No clue why. Alright, so of course I asked myself first, what kind of stick is this? It's very tight. If you move it around, very hard to move. Like, it's just stiff. Compared it to my default JLF in my Combo Obsidian, and this thing has some give. You can definitely do it with like just your thumb if you want. This thing definitely has some resistance. So, of course, the first thing I asked myself, how do I open it up? So you have to take off this back plate, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they're under the feet. 7 screws to take it off. And once you wedge the darn back off, here's the internals. As with all old school sticks, the buttons are soldered to the board, which means you need a soldering iron to actually replace any of the buttons. Not that I'm sure I'd be able to in the first place, because I don't know if these are standard size buttons. Anyways, it actually comes standard with an octagonal gate. This one, in fact. And the switches for the stick itself are actually glued to this thing whenever it first comes. Which is stupid design, just to be clear. I immediately thought to myself when I got this thing, I want a square gate, so I got my square gate from a JLF that I just had sitting around, because I replaced the one in my Obsidian. And it fit perfectly, but I had to like hold down the switches as I shoved this square gate on. As for the stick itself, I think it's some sort of like ASCII default thing that they used to have back in the day. Not the greatest thing ever, but because of how stiff it is, I think I think once I break it in, it'll be fine. Now, I did mention that this is a stick for the PS2, FighterStick GGXX Main 01, and the backplate for this thing is freaking heavy. Got some weight to it. It says FighterStick Guilty Gear XX Custom. It's a Sammy thing, although I think at that point ASCII was part of Sammy or something like that before they got bought out by Sega. I had to import this from Japan. Now, when you open it up, it is 7 Phillips screws, and 2 of them are under the feet. I had to like pry them up with a flathead screwdriver, and other than that, thing is actually not that bad. Only gripe, in all honesty, is buttons aren't super tactile, and the stick is super stiff. Rotating it right now. It does detect all 4 directions properly with that square gate that I put on there. But it was a pain to put that square gate on, just to be clear. The art itself, it's got some Daisuke Ishwatari art here. I think that Ino, Zappa, and Slayer art is also Daisuke Ishwatari. But this Bridget out here, he's just, chilling. He's out there. Looks a little weird with all the other stuff. Anyways, that's first first impression there?